Is WWE's next big faction forming? I'm Will. That's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. As always, let's cheers. Talk about some wrestling, huh?
Yeah, 2024 was the year of the faction, I would say. Some people were kind of factioned out. Feels like we kind of got maybe some of those going away. But you know, there's always going to be new factions coming down the line.
There is. This is a new series we're going to do, kind of like a weekly wrapped. We're going to do it after Smackdown, Raw, and NXT hit. It just kind of goes further into all the storylines and meat of the wrestling stuff that's happening, more so than we do during our reviews. So with that said, let's get right into it. So Smackdown, we had a bunch of things happen here. One big takeaway, though, was no Solo Sikoa. He lost to Ulafala, officially lost his tribal chiefness, as you would say, when he lost to Roman Reigns on Raw on Netflix. And we were all like, well, he's got to address that on SmackDown, right? No. Bloodline 2.0 kind of just went around wrecking shop, right? They attacked LA Knight. They ended up having a match against Cody Rhodes and who was his partner? Jimmy, right? So my question is, with Solo losing the Ulafala, where does Bloodline 2.0 go from here?
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting question. I guess it depends on what kind of Solo we get on this Friday. We know Solo returns this Friday. What I'm betting on is maybe like a distraught, maybe a Solo that questions himself. You know, he had the Ulafala, he was the tribal chief, but now maybe he doesn't really know who he is anymore. The tribe was following him so much previously, but now he doesn't have any power. He doesn't have anything. So I feel like if you go that route with Solo, you make him start to question himself, kind of like what we've seen with Roman at times. I feel like you could just almost copy and paste that. That's what they've done for most of the feud anyway. Copy and paste that to Solo, and then that's how you can get Bloodline 2.0, Tama Tonga, and Jacob Fatu to really kind of just push Solo out the door.
Yeah, I would like it to work to where Solo is like, he just doesn't believe in himself anymore. But then you have Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga really still wanting to push the envelope as a group. And they're going around wrecking shop every single week. And while they're doing that, they're kind of like, come on, Solo, let's go. Let's get our stuff back. And Solo's just kind of like, oh, no, man, I'm not tribal chief anymore. And then eventually you do have that Jacob Fatu moment of like, well, screw you, Solo. If you ain't going to do this, I'll be the new tribal chief type deal. And then you can have that Jacob Fatu push that we eventually all want because he's going to be a future star. And I just think that would be the perfect way to go with Bloodline 2.0 to eventually just have them be on their own and focus on whatever WrestleMania path they take, being that of Jacob Fatu, Solo Sikoa.
Yeah, and I think it is interesting to note that I saw a report coming out today that we're filming this actually. Tongaloa is... I guess they're expecting him to be back on screen by Mania. So not necessarily being like, they didn't exactly carve out a role or they didn't exactly say, hey, he's going to be in a match, but at least on screen. So maybe somehow, some way that comes into play down the road.
Tongaloa wins the Royal Rumble.
Book it. Because I think it is, crucial. We at least have ideas for some of the wrestlers in WWE, like, oh, this person will make a good Mania match. This person, well, Solo now, I don't know. Fatu, I don't know. So I feel like you almost have to pin them against each other at 41.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what happens, Friday, we finally get Solo back. He's been putting on a show all year. Hopefully he gets in there and really sells whatever storyline comes nenext for them. But
yeah, and I guess before we go on, I want to just say, I think it depends on what happens with Paul Heyman too. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Because Paul Heyman looked kind of disappointed in Solo.
Yeah.
So does Paul play a role in that? Who knows? Maybe.
That is true. He did look a little disappointed. So Paul Heyman, going through every single freaking name that ain't Paul. Paul Heyman might be more involved than we think. We're going to combine a little bit of NXT, Raw, and SmackDown here from what happened this week. Bayley was everywhere. Bayley was absolutely everywhere. Bayley came out on SmackDown, won the Fatal 4-Way match, so she has a match against Tiffany for the belt this week, yet she comes out on Raw, starts to get involved with Nia and Rhea, and then she comes out on NXT and starts talking to Roxanne. Where is Bayley's story going? Is she going to somehow pull off the upset and beat Tiff? Is she just going to go to Raw? Is she going to go to NXT? What's up with that?
Yeah, sound like the Hurricane.
What's up with that?
Yeah, so I think I think it's important to note, I don't think Bayley is winning. I don't think she's beating Tiffany. I would give that a -% chance if that were possible. So I guess I'll give it a 0. So that's not going to happen. So I think you look at the other two. I think NXT is also, we've talked about it before, how stacked that women's roster is. So I think that's out of the equation as well. I don't think you add somebody else down there. I think the only solution or answer for Bayley is going to be Raw. Now, what does that look like? I don't know. I feel like she went down there and the whole talk and everything was just kind of more so than anything to elevate Roxanne. I feel like that's the side, or that's the thought I took out of it was, okay, we know Roxanne's going to be the next kind of main event player from NXT, at least on the women's side, to come up. Kind of just like a rub to her, I guess. And maybe you have Bayley kind of teeter around that mid-card title scene, maybe. I mean, that's not something I would enjoy, but I don't see her challenging, beating Rhea. You could run back some damage control stuff. I guess you could do that. Bayley's kind of like an odd person out here in terms of what do you do, because her heel stuff, I would say, was pretty good. Then she turned face. She got the title. She fell flat on her face, and then she's still face. So you don't want to turn her because she had just turned her face not too long ago, but the face stuff isn't working either.
Yeah. Will she win the title? Will she beat Tiff? Hell no. She shouldn't. But I see this as WWE just kind of throwing one of their household names everywhere and seeing what sticks the best, right? It's like one of those moments where, well, we don't really have a clear path for her on any of these shows, but let's just put her on Raw, see what the reaction is, put her on NXT, see what the reaction is, see if any of this stuff can stick. And what ended up happening was it kind of all did well. So I could see Bayley kind of being the Swiss Army knife for them and kind of going wherever she wants to go, almost breaking the rules. Would I like that? Not really, but I do think it's interesting to get Bayley involved with kind of the Rhea stuff because we haven't seen them interact very much. Obviously, if she wants to do the job and pull up a Roxanne, more than happy for her to do that. But as long as she's not champion, this is a good, interesting way to get Bayley just involved in the roster because she has kind of just been floating around with no real purpose in my mind for a while. So I'm down with this.
Yeah, I guess it is, to go against your point about the floating around, you need to be okay with that. You could almost say that that's just furthering that. So as long as they decide something, I think it is really important here. They've got to stick to something. Like I said, I don't know what that is. If we knew, we would make more money than we do now. We'd be writers for WWE. But Bayley is kind of one of the 4 horsewomen. Like Charlotte's been out with an injury. Becky obviously retired, and Mercedes went to a different company. But Bayley's kind of always seemed to be the odd one out. And here it kind of shows that she's not really great on the mic. She can't hang her head on that. I don't think she can really hang her head on in-ring stuff. So I don't know. I don't want her to get lost in the shuffle, I guess would be my thought.
A little bit of fantasy booking, if you may. I mean, I know this is a weekly wrap up, but to stick on the 4 horsewomen note, we assume that Charlotte's coming back, right? We assume that Becky Lynch is coming back. Yep. Bayley obviously has now gone down to Roxanne. Are we about to have a passing of the torch moment here at WrestleMania 41 for the 3 horsewomen of WWE? You could have Charlotte pass the torch to Tiffany, do the job for her at Mania. You can have Becky come back, challenge Lyra Valkyria for that IC title, do the job for her, and then, of course, Bayley would be more than happy to do the job for Roxanne. I mean, what a way to get 3 potential superstars in the women's division built than the 3 horsewomen doing the job for them.
Yeah, I actually really like that idea now that I'm thinking about it, now that you mention it. We've kind of talked about that. We kind of talk about them kind of getting phased out in a sense of like, well, they really kind of set the table for everybody, but they've almost got surpassed at points. So that would be fantastic. I could also see some way, somehow, them doing Bayley and you name somebody else to be the ones to maybe challenge Naomi and Bianca for the tag titles just in the meantime, because Bianca and her have history, and obviously Naomi and Bayley are friends, but obviously Naomi kind of picks Bianca's side a little bit more. So maybe there's some animosity there. Maybe she goes after tag titles.
Yeah, I could also see that. I could see that. Let's get away from Bayley and all of them for a little bit. Let's head on over to, well, I mean, I guess SmackDown kind of started this whole thing. So Paul Heyman comes out. He announces that Roman Reigns is in the Royal Rumble, and then Raw happens, and everybody joins the Royal Rumble. CM Punk declares to the Rumble. Drew McIntyre, Seth freaking Rollins, John Cena, obviously.
LA Knight, Jey Uso.
Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
This has the potential to be the best Royal Rumble in history. I just want to put that out there. We have anything to say on that?
Yeah, I really think this Rumble and really this Mania, it's kind of like a perfect time for everything because you still have Roman. You've got the superpowers of John Cena kind of at the end here with the last run. You've got megastar Cody. You've got Gunther, who people love. You got CM Punk back in the mix now. I mean, this Mania Rumble season, we talk about somebody's going to miss the boat. Somebody's going to miss out on this. I don't know who that is. Somebody's not going to get a top tier match. No. There's going to be somebody missing out on the Mania card. But this Rumble road to Mania is probably going to be my favorite, at least in recent memory. And I'm just along for the ride.
I've never really been a fan of people declaring for the Rumble. I mean, there's 30 people in the Rumble, so we just assume that the top stars are going to be in it if they don't have a title. But this has been a great way to build the Rumble, and it's like you can't see it any other way than like, okay, we're gonna get down to the final 5 or 6, and it's gonna be Roman staring down Seth and Punk and Cena and probably Orton and all that stuff. I mean, that is going to be one of the all-time moments in wrestling, and there's going to be intertwined stories about like Drew and Seth are going to want to kick the hell out of Roman Reigns, but Seth also has a problem with Punk, and then you have John Cena who's in I want to win the Royal Rumble mode. It's just going to be absolutely bananas, and I just think that this is the best Royal Rumble buildup we've ever had in my lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, I'm not a big fan of the I declare either. I think if they keep that number under 10, I'm okay, because then it's like, okay, well, most of these people we already knew. But the Rumble's all about the surprises and the returns and the debuts or the call-ups. So you want to keep that number low. It's not going to be like anything when we went in St. Louis, because that was awful.
Yeah.
You'll get a couple, I think you'll get a couple surprise, like how Bully Ray always comes back, or you get some couple Legends appearances, I guess I should say. But I really think this one specifically, you're not going to get a ton of those. You're not going to get a ton of nostalgia callbacks. You're going to get a lot of these main guys, a lot of the people on the roster. You're going to get a few call-ups, and I couldn't be more excited.
I mean, we're not even mentioning like any big time returns that we haven't seen in a while. I mean, I mentioned Orton, but like Brock Lesnar, he's always floating around out there. If he decides to come back, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Let's move on fully to Raw, though. Let's talk about Mr. Dom was in the doghouse this week. He obviously tried to hug Rhea, and he was trying to make it up to Liv this week with a big bouquet of flowers, but Liv kind of tosses those to Finn and makes Dom go do her errands and chores for the night. Is this the beginning of the end for Liv Dom, basically? Is it true? Was Liv just kind of using Dom for the revenge tour against Rhea? What's next for these two?
Yeah, I really hope it's a split from the Judgment Day. That would be my short answer, I guess. I don't know. I saw a couple people talk about it, at least in our Raw review, that they think that Liv and Dom are just continuing to play Judgment Day. I really like that idea. I don't know if they're smart enough to do that. I don't know if we're just overbooking it because that's what we love to do, but I think it would add an extra element to things. I mean, you have to cash in on Liv and Dom. You can't break them up. I think that they should switch shows. I think that would be smart, but let's be honest, probably not going to happen unless all of Judgment Day comes around and we're just having the same conversation, just the colors go from red to blue. So long story short, I guess, to answer the question, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but as long as you keep Liv and Dom together and away from Judgment Day, I'm happy. The last thing I want to see is Liv to somehow turn on Dom and in the end work with Finn. That we've heard that rumor forever, and I don't want to see that.
The earliest rumors when Liv joined the Judgment Day were the whole like she's secretly working with Finn Balor behind the scenes, and at the very beginning that felt like an intriguing storyline. But now we're months and months from that, and Liv and Dom have done such a good job together that whenever they're out there together, it's just gold. I mean, it's just crowd interaction out of, like crazy. I don't like the idea of them splitting them up this soon. I think that if you do a Judgment Day turn where you have Liv and Dom turn on Judgment Day, you immediately catapult Liv back into the main scene without needing a belt, without needing Rhea. And then, of course, you'd boost Dom into a bitter stratosphere where he can go after the Intercontinental finally. And we need attendees and titles on that, man. So keep Liv Dom together and let them cook.
Yeah, I think the main thing is we all kind of know we're going to get Dom and Finn. It's just, what do we do in the meantime? I don't know, because it seems weird to me that Liv lost the title and you would think, oh, well, I'm sure they have a rematch clause, or hey, I'm sure they have a good story. Or she'll probably come out Monday and she'll cut a promo and then somebody will interrupt her. That's got to happen, right? No, nothing happened. Like they made Liv drop the title and they just were like, yeah. It's like that, what is it, that Toy Story where he drops Woody and he's like, I don't want to play with you
anymore.
Yeah.
That is true. There seems to be WWE seems to be kind of hypocritical with this because logically, Liv has a title rematch. The rematch clause is a thing within WWE, even if they want to act like it's never there anymore. It was there for Rhea Ripley over and over and over again, and we are behind it of like separate these two. We don't want it, but just it feels like logically there's a drop off to them not running it back and giving Liv one more opportunity because they did give Rhea opportunity after opportunity after opportunity.
Yeah. That's why it's like there's got to be something bigger planned up Liv's sleeve, I guess, but I don't know what that is. I've heard people say like, oh, well, what about Raquel going after Rhea? I don't want to see that. What about them going after the tag titles? Well, I don't want to see that. Like anything with Raquel, I'm out on. Yeah. In hindsight, in the beginning, that sounded like a great plan before she returned. She returned, and it's been awful. Yeah. It's been terrible. The only good interaction is with her and Dom on screen and a little bit her and Finn on screen, but I would say even at this point, Finn's stock has dropped so much that I'm like, oh, I'll get him off the screen. I just want to see Liv and Dom.
It's not logical for them not to do it, right? Like it's not logical for them to not give her a title shot. But what I would rather them do is say, screw it. Liv eventually is done with this sarcastic disrespect that Finn's giving her, and the bigger story in Liv's mind becomes turning on the Judgment Day and kind of that storyline overall. Because obviously we don't want to see Liv and Rhea anymore. We don't want to see it. We want to see this. But they just need to have an obvious storyline that makes it believable that Liv would leave the title behind in order to go finish that story instead.
Yeah, and so far, I mean, granted, we're only one episode in from when she lost it. They haven't done that. And I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give them time. But it's like, God, it's been rough so far.
I agree. But we'll stick on Rhea for one more moment because Nia Jax decides to come out there, and I guess she's a part of Raw now, and she says that while Mommy's on top, there's only one person truly on top of the women's division, and it is Nia Jax. Nia Jax being Rhea's first big opponent in this title reign is very, very intriguing to me. Nia is the only woman on the roster in the recent year that has shown absolutely no fear of Rhea Ripley, and you can see it on Raw. She takes a headbutt and she gives one right back. It's like we finally have a semi-equivalent to Rhea, so I really like the idea of them doing this if they do it.
Yeah, I think it's a great filler feud. We were a little like, oh, who's going to come out? We obviously were hoping it's not Liv, and it wasn't Liv, and we were like, oh, fantastic. Ends up to be Nia Jax, and it's like, okay, somebody that just lost her title on a cash-in, so didn't even technically like lose it fairly, right? She ends up getting cashed in, gets taken advantage of, and she's like, screw that, I'm going to go challenge Rhea Ripley. We said it, Nia Jax is probably most improved last year at least, so I'm excited to see her. You need a credible heel to go after Rhea because to your point that you mentioned before, like Rhea and Liv took up so much time, there was nobody there, so it makes sense at least from that side of things. Now, do I see Nia winning it? No, but could I see them putting on some good matches? Yeah, I could sign up for that for a few months until Mania.
I think I'm immediately more bought into the realism of it than I was Liv and Rhea because Rhea has been booked to be this such dominating force that it never felt like Liv really had a chance. Nia has been booked to be the dominating force on SmackDown. I mean, she's almost a weekly competitor on SmackDown. So this feels legit. It feels like Rhea could lose to Nia. Do I think she'll lose to Nia? No, but believing in the story is half of it. And especially with Rhea, with the Liv stuff and all that, I am so happy to finally believe in a story with Rhea Ripley. So I'm looking forward to it a lot. To the faction. To the faction.
The moment we've all been waiting for.
The reason we're here is WWE's new faction forming. I mean, let's go over it. So you have Seth Rollins and CM Punk come out and they're screaming at each other, right? And Drew comes out and he starts screaming back at him. And Drew ends up eventually going, you know what? There's a bigger problem than this whole CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre hatred for each other. We got Roman Reigns who's deciding to come back and go after a championship. Why are you guys not seeing that? Especially you, Seth. Kevin Owens, obviously, on SmackDown. He's sitting there doing the same thing. Last week on SmackDown, he even told Cody that it's above him. It's above their hatred of Cody and Kevin. He goes, if you're not going to try to stop Roman Reigns from getting the title, then you're not just disrespecting me, you're disrespecting every superstar in that locker room. And then, of course, Seth Rollins later in the night kind of digs on Sammy and the idea of Sammy helping Roman to get the Ula Fala back and the idea of helping Roman to maybe eventually take down Cody Rhodes and get the championship back. He even alluded to that. So, is WWE's next big faction about to form? You do have Drew, Seth, and KO. They're not friends, but they all agree on one big thing. Roman Reigns must be stopped before he finds his way back to the championship. Will that bring these guys together and create the next big faction?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's one common goal here, and I think that's to end Roman Reigns or to make sure Roman Reigns is miserable or to make sure Roman Reigns doesn't have what he wants. Roman Reigns has cast that shadow over WWE as a whole for 4 years, 5 years. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on. It makes so much sense in terms of like real life animosity. Like I would be pissed, right? Like if that happened to me, or if like, man, everybody seems to help this guy out, but this guy only cares about himself. Because at the end of the day, like you look at things like Roman still hasn't apologized. It's important to note he hasn't apologized to anybody. So Roman just does what Roman wants. Roman prospers. Everybody else kind of suffers. I think we really start to see this or see them lean into it probably at the Rumble. I think some way, somehow in the Rumble match with Seth out there, with Drew out there, hopefully Roman, you assume they're all going to be in the same ring at the same time. Now, KO might not be because he's obviously got the match with Cody, but maybe it's the Royal Rumble. You never know. We've seen crazier things happen. So I think we kind of get the first sign of at least Drew and Seth teaming up at Rumble, and then they can add Kevin as soon as maybe the SmackDown after.
Yeah, I mean, the most WWE has been carried by the Bloodline faction, the Bloodline 2.0 faction. They love their big time factions, and you have so many guys that you have been invested within those factions, have been invested in storylines or a part of storylines that have been disrespected, right? Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and the logical side of WWE lately is that's what carries these long-term stories. And these three have all the logic in the world right now. They're like, this dude, he was the leader of all things bad for 4 years. Why are we just like shaking hands now and letting him come back and do it? So I can't wait for them to, like you said, I think it'll be around the Rumble time, at least Seth and Drew, to eventually just look at each other and just be like, look, none of us like each other, but screw this guy. Let's just form a faction, take down Bloodline 2.0 and try to take over the WWE.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't know. I mean, you're running out of time. I say that and I say that and I say that because you are running out of time. And you have question marks, at least regarding like Roman Reigns. Like, what's Roman going to do at Mania? Like, yeah, he could win the Rumble, but to me, that doesn't feel exciting. Yeah. Right? No, it's just kind of like, man, okay, Roman again. So it would be much, a better storyline for me to get this, the week before the Rumble. I guess the Raw before the Rumble is the next time we're going to see him. They're going to do that cover athlete reveal debut thing for 2K25
on the cover.
I think it's going to be the one. I think it's
already leaked.
Oh, is it? Yeah. I haven't seen it yet, so I guess I'll check it out after this. Is it the punch?
It's after he punches the ground, and then Paul Heyman's on the outside, like with the Ula Fala.
Oh yeah, I don't like that. Anyway,
it looks good. You got to see.
Anyway, enough about that. I think that maybe you get something there. I mean, WWE loves their like ceremonies with, hey, let's give this guy a shout out for being the 2K cover athlete, or hey, this person's on a magazine, let's do this. And then there's always like the tarp in the background or a painting or whatever, and it drops and somebody's there. Like I could see that being Drew McIntyre and taking out Roman.
It'll be on SmackDown though, right?
No, the 27th is
it a Monday?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I believe 27th is a Monday.
Imagine the tarp drops and just all three of them are standing there.
I could be wrong. Let me check.
Uh-oh.
Today's the 15th. 27th is on a Monday.
Okay, so we'll be on a Raw.
Yep.
So is he a Raw guy now?
I think Roman Reigns is a money guy. So they obviously want Netflix.
A Netflix guy.
Yeah, he obviously wants Netflix, but you can't abandon that. But I think it is kind of smart for them right now to have him on Netflix mostly because it does separate the two bloodlines, and I think that's important.
Yeah, that's also true. It'll be funny seeing him. You think they'll release a Fortnite skin with it because he'll be standing on the Fortnite logo?
He'll just start emoting. Roman Reigns will start emoting in there.
L
Like,
dance.
oh, you can come to Fortnite and get this emote. That's what
One more thing that I wanted to point out that is a part of the weekly wrap up in terms of SmackDown, Raw, and NXT. Something that happened off of all the shows was Corey Graves drama. Corey Graves drama. He put out some tweets on, I guess it was Tuesday this week. And he basically said, imagine working your ass off for all these years, becoming great at your job. And then when it was time to enjoy the fruits of your labor, they say you're not famous enough to continue, which obviously he's meaning that he got demoted to NXT while Pat McAfee got to come back and be a part of Raw on Netflix. And I'm going to go ahead and say, I agree with Corey Graves, man. He says he's worked his whole life for it, and I thought he was absolutely phenomenal, especially on the other side of Michael Cole. I thought that they were great together. And I also love Pat McAfee. I think he's entertaining as can be. I think he's fun. I think he is the famous guy that gets more people into the door of wrestling. But I think that Michael Cole is not going to last forever as a commentator. Corey Graves is the wrestling guy, right? He knows the business. He won't leave you when Sunday football comes on or college football comes around or even when the ratings drop. Corey Graves isn't going to go away and be like, I can be doing better things over there. So I think they really should have had Corey Graves on, even if there was a 3-person commentary team on Raw. And then eventually when Michael Cole goes away, you have your next guy up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been talked about in the past, at least, or Michael Cole has said, like, hey, that next guy up is Corey Graves. So, like, it's known. So it does seem a little weird from that side of things. Admittedly, we're not big fans of Joe Tessitore with WWE. Some of the other stuff he does, I think he's fine, but maybe not full-on WWE, but I understand they just paid him and he's got the contract and all that stuff, so you can't really do that there. But I think I would have enjoyed to see him and Wade kind of continue. But these tweets kind of came out of nowhere in a sense. I mean, they kind of got hinted at it, or at least like you knew Pat was always going to take over, and we always kind of questioned, like, does that lead to a third person? Like, what does this mean? Well, it means Corey Graves just get in the door, I guess. Yeah, just go away for a little bit, Corey. Corey continues to kind of build up stock for me or interest in me as like the character development side for him. I think this is great. I think it's great work by him. I can't wait for Pat McAfee to kind of address them or maybe take a shot back at Corey on a Raw.
Oh, no, this is real heat.
No, I know, but I'm saying, like, I can't wait for Pat to like say something on Raw about it and come back at him and go at him and say something like that. Because Pat's not one to mince words. No. So Pat's not one to shy away from anything. So I kind of can't wait for that. And I mean, who knows? I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, it's real, but Corey got cleared a little bit while ago. Who's to say down the road they don't just work out a deal where they go at it eventually? Yeah,
I mean, best case scenario, this eventually turns into not real heat, and you do get like a Pat McAfee, Corey Graves match in the ring. I think that'd be extremely entertaining. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't have any disrespect to Pat McAfee. It's not a disrespect to him. I just think it's poor long-term planning by WWE, because I really think Corey Graves could be your long-term guy, your JR, your king, your long-term guy in the WWE. I think him and Wade Barrett could have easily been the future of Raw commentary, and not including Corey Graves at all on SmackDown and Raw seems a little blasphemous.
Yeah, it seems a little weird. WWE's kind of made their choice though, and you kind of have to deal with that. So maybe he does more of the, I don't know, like the Big E role, I guess, and maybe he does the pre-shows or post-shows.
I don't think we're gonna see him on WWE.
No, I don't think so. But I'm saying, like, if they're smart, they at least do something like that. Yeah. Now I think that. Right now, with how it is, I don't think WWE is going to offer him anything. Even if they did, I think he'd be out. I don't think he would. Even if they were like, "Hey, how about you do this?" I don't think he would do it.
No,
I think he's just done. So maybe you just let cooler heads prevail. You give it some time, and maybe he just goes away for a little bit.
Yeah, maybe
cools down.
Anyway, that was our weekly wrap up for this week of wrestling. SmackDown, Raw, and NXT. We're going to try to start to do this a little bit more often, just dive deeper into the storylines and stuff than we can on our weekly reviews, but you should still check that out. And what you should also check out is our live streams, our watch-alongs. We watch Raw and SmackDown every Monday, every Friday. Please share this content, especially with TikTok. on the shutdown coming up here. It's going to be a lot harder for smaller content creators like us to grow. So word of mouth is such a big deal. So follow us all at codwrestlepod, COD WrestlePod. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts at YouTube, Spotify, Apple, etc. If you want to come talk to us, go to our link tree in our bio. It's got all of our socials. Go comment on all of it. We even have a Discord if you want to come join that as well. We got to talking in there. It's a lot of fun. Thank you all for the support. But I'm Will. That's Brandon. We're the cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast, and we will see you next time.